On the evening of November 24th, 1971, a routine commercial flight left Portland, Oregon, bound for Seattle, Washington. It was the day before Thanksgiving. Families were traveling home. Businessmen were finishing work trips. Flight 305 of Northwest Orient Airlines carried only a few dozen passengers, and nothing about the flight suggested that history was about to be made. Among the passengers sat a quiet, middle-aged man dressed in a dark business suit, a white shirt, a black tie, and dark sunglasses. He purchased his ticket under the name Dan Cooper. No one on board had any reason to remember him. He was calm. He was polite. He ordered a drink, lit a cigarette, and blended into the cabin like any ordinary traveler. But appearances can be dangerously misleading. Shortly after takeoff, Cooper handed a folded note to flight attendant Florence Schaffner. At first, she assumed it was the phone number of another passenger and slipped it into her purse without reading it. Cooper leaned toward her and spoke quietly. "You'd better look at that note." When she opened it, everything changed. The message claimed that he had a bomb. He instructed her to sit beside him. When she did, Cooper partially opened his briefcase, revealing what appeared to be red cylinders connected by wires. Whether the device was real has never been proven, but to everyone on board, the threat was treated as real. Cooper remained remarkably calm. He never shouted. He never panicked. He never threatened passengers unnecessarily. Instead, he spoke with quiet confidence, as though he had already planned every step long before boarding the aircraft. His demands were precise. He wanted $200,000 in cash. He wanted 4 parachutes, and he wanted a fuel truck waiting when the aircraft landed in Seattle. The requests immediately raised questions. Why 4 parachutes instead of 1? Some investigators later believed Cooper intentionally asked for multiple parachutes to discourage authorities from sabotaging the equipment. If officials thought he might force a hostage to jump with him, they would be less likely to provide defective parachutes. Whether that was truly his plan remains unknown. As Flight 305 continued toward Seattle, authorities on the ground raced against time. The FBI was notified. Local police prepared for the aircraft's arrival. Airline officials gathered the ransom money. Every bill was photographed, and the serial numbers were carefully recorded in case the cash ever surfaced again. Inside the cabin, however, the atmosphere remained strangely calm. Most passengers had no idea they were part of one of the most famous hijackings in American history. They simply believed their flight had been delayed. Only the crew understood the reality unfolding behind the curtain. A quiet passenger had taken control of an entire aircraft without firing a single shot, and before the night was over, he would attempt something no skyjacker had ever successfully accomplished. He was about to disappear into the darkness. At 5:39 p.m., Flight 305 landed safely at Seattle-Tacoma Airport. The aircraft rolled to a remote section of the runway, far from the terminal. Outside, law enforcement officers, FBI agents, and airline officials waited in silence. No one knew exactly what would happen next. Cooper remained calm. From his seat, he watched as his demands were carried out. A bag containing $200,000 in cash was delivered to the aircraft. Along with it came 4 parachutes. The crew carefully passed everything to Cooper. After confirming that his demands had been met, he made an unexpected decision. He allowed every passenger to leave the aircraft. One by one, they stepped onto the runway, unaware that they had just witnessed the beginning of one of America's greatest mysteries. Only the flight crew remained on board. Most hijackings ended once money was exchanged. This one was only getting started. Cooper gave the pilots a new set of instructions. He wanted to fly toward Mexico City. The aircraft would travel at a relatively low altitude. The landing gear would remain lowered. The wing flaps would stay partially extended, and the cabin would not be fully pressurized. These were unusual requests, but they were also technically possible for a Boeing 727. The aircraft had one feature that made it different from most commercial airliners of its time. A rear air stair could be lowered while the plane was in flight. It was an escape route unlike any other. Just after 7:30 p.m., Flight 305 lifted off once again. This time, there were no ordinary passengers on board, only the crew and a man carrying $200,000. As darkness settled over the Pacific Northwest, rain swept across the landscape below. Strong winds pushed against the aircraft. The mountains and forests beneath disappeared into the night. Inside the cabin, Cooper tied the bag of ransom money to himself. He prepared one of the parachutes. The crew remained inside the cockpit, following his instructions. They could not see what he was doing, only hear occasional sounds from the rear of the aircraft. Then, at approximately 8:13 p.m., the crew noticed something unusual. The aircraft suddenly pitched upward. Investigators later concluded that the change in movement was consistent with weight leaving the rear staircase. Sometime around that moment, Cooper made his decision. He lowered the rear air stair. He stepped into the freezing night, and he jumped.